Well, it's a good day. Welcome. I hope everybody is enjoying a prosperous little Easter and getting a lot of chocolate into them. Today is really just a short video, about 10 minutes, which is a precursor to something we'll be doing in a couple of weeks' time. So look out for that. And it really just looks at the pieces around building an AI practice. And we wanted to give you a little bit of an introduction in order to sort of just build up to that place where we start to talk and discuss how we build a practice. Now, there are a couple of things, obviously, that we need to look at in terms of where we are. So, we've gone through weeks 1 through 4 and looked at just kicking off the program, licensing, partner network benefits. We had a good little session a couple of weeks ago around becoming an artificial intelligence master, and we looked at some of the tools. We looked at some of the, obviously, the challenges that come with being an AI master. And this really just means that there's going to be, for most people, a learning curve involved in putting an AI practice in place. The same then applies to the concept of the practice. While there's a learning curve for the resources, while there's a learning curve for how we become more AI comfortable, there is also a learning curve for going through the process of building a practice. Week 4 was looking at some industry focus and building your IP. And then this guy introduces natively the next step. So because it's a short video, I don't want to waste too much time, but like I said, it's an introduction to the webinar we'll be running on the 20th of April at 3 p.m. That's Sydney time, Melbourne time. So look out for that, sign up for that, get involved. And this is an opportunity for you guys to sort of interact, to ask questions. Obviously, there's still Yammer and other means of getting to us, but this is when we'll really be focusing on the beginnings of building an AI practice. Now, I like to start with this quote from Harry Shum pretty much every time. And the important bits are really brought to the surface here. AI will transform every business, improve every life, and solve some of society's most fundamental challenges. The important piece, obviously, from a partner perspective and from a take it to the market perspective, is the AI will improve every business. And that what that really means is that ultimately, from a business perspective, now this could be your business as a partner, this could be a customer's business. But from a business perspective, everyone will have a choice. And the choices are really quite clear. You move your business to an intelligent business, or essentially you struggle to exist. Now, one of the first things that we have to start doing from a partner perspective is going out to the customers and discussing things like an artificial intelligence strategy, right? Because the reality here is if they don't have one, they essentially need to prepare to struggle, they need to prepare to lose to their competitors, and essentially may have to prepare to disband in the end. Okay? It's not a case of having an AI strategy is a good thing or isn't a good thing. It's really just a case of this is the way the world is moving. Okay? There's not a lot we have to say in this particular place, but it's really about adopting AI. And it doesn't, the important thing here is AI doesn't have to become the reason the business exists. AI needs to be stitched or integrated into the business in order to make the business perform better. Right. So there's a lot of things that we have to understand in terms of going forward. And there's a lot of things that we have to essentially take to our customers going forward. So what are they looking for ultimately? What is it they want to improve? Do they want better internal processes, like simple little things like their accounting? Okay, do they want to improve the customer experiences? Is there anything in their product that would benefit from artificial intelligence being essentially stitched into it? Are there tasks that are repetitive, error prone, boring? Okay, that somebody ultimately gets up every morning and performs a particular task. Is there something that we can automate? Is there something that will benefit from intelligence, workflows, or any of the AI capabilities. Once you start looking at customers and essentially your own business from that perspective, you suddenly start to realize that there's possibly lists and lists of things that could benefit from AI. Then it becomes about the understanding. So making the business understand what they need before they go any further. We all know that AI can do amazing things, okay? But before we can do those amazing things, they need to look at it realistically and understand the challenges that come with it. Okay? So AI does things really well. It will classify things really well. It will look at trends. It will do automate a lot of the things that we generally do manually nowadays. Okay. But there are certain things where the work goes beyond just plugging in a machine learning algorithm or running it through a service. And ultimately, that's the story we need to tell. What fits where? What do you need to understand before you go any further? Okay. We also need to define AI for the businesses that we're going to be working with. We need to tell them what it does well, what it doesn't do so well, where they could use it, how they could use it. It's very likely that many of the customers that you're working with are using particular systems that would benefit from AI, but they won't know this until we introduce them to some of the artificial intelligence capabilities. And this is not because they don't want it. This is not because they're resistant. This is usually because they're unaware. In many cases, with my customers, they do what they do. They do it on a regular basis. They do it in a manner that they believe is a good way, or they feel like they're doing it well, and ultimately are not going to go fiddle with something that essentially does what it's supposed to do and will get on with some of the other processes. Another important part is making sure that the message isn't that AI is easy, right? Plugging into services are easy, running things through machine learning algorithms when you understand what you're doing is easy. But ultimately, we have to understand that we're working with data products. Okay? And in order to use artificial intelligence, it usually requires a certain amount of training. It requires data, a lot of data, and a lot of trained data, a lot of valid data. Okay? So in many companies, we're asking them to have solid data practices, okay? An organization that has data sets we can trust, and essentially data that is useful, which is another message that has to get to the customer, because in many cases with AI, everybody wants to use it, but the data that we're giving it is probably not ready to be used. And we have to be very cautious that we are essentially walking them through the process of how you adopt AI, making sure they're ready. And then it starts to be about things like resources, talent, training. Okay? Ultimately, you cannot afford to not be on the artificial intelligence train. So if you're not walking this particular road at the moment, and this is the message essentially we're taking to the customers, then ultimately they're going to be walking blind and really struggle going forward. So the things that we're going to focus on when we really talk this through is really the resourcing. And this goes to things like training, and this goes to moving roles in many cases. So the people who currently work with the data potentially need to move into a more of a data management role, data stewardship role, data cleansing role. Obviously, customer buy-in and engagement is an important part of getting them to know what they need, how they need it, and when they need it, and what it will take to get them there. And then ultimately, they need to be able to measure success at the end of that. So this is what we'll be discussing in a few weeks' time on the 20th. I look forward to talking to you guys then. In the meantime, some of the resources I introduced a couple of weeks ago during the AI master session. Please have a look at things like AI School, Learn Analytics, edX, and obviously there's some Microsoft official curriculum. Have a look, reach out to me on Yammer, reach out to the team in general on Yammer. I think I mentioned at the time that some of these courses have, are moderated, but there's potentially a week or two between updates. So you might find a button that's not where it should be and things like that. Certainly feel free to reach out and we'll help you wherever we can. So questions, post on Yammer, 20th of April at 3 p.m. We'll see you again and we'll dive into building your AI practice in way more depth. Thank you very much. See you guys soon. Ciao.